Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my monologues. Today I'm just going over an event that happened recently at the weekend. If you're watching this on the Monday when it goes out, over at the weekend, just outside Cheltenham was a small village, I can't remember what it's called, or a suburb of Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, in which an event, a very good event, took place about farming and farm security. And I'm sure many of you who've been there will know what a successful and interesting event it was. There was a number of different speakers talking about different things. And Tim from Fair Play Now, the YouTube channel, he filmed all the different talks. I think they're pretty YouTube friendly. We were having to be a bit careful how we said things so that it could go out so that other people after the event could get to watch it. The point of the event, of course, was to invite farmers to hear what is going on in the world, because I think a lot of farmers are so busy trying to make ends meet. We know that they're aware of some of the government policies, inheritance tax for being one. I believe there's something to do with Natural England that are trying to push through Parliament compulsory purchase of farmland if they feel that they need to do a building project or they need to protect a piece of land, and they suddenly think, oh, actually, we can just go and take farmland away without the farmer's consent or even approval. They can just do this, and this is a huge worry. Farmers are under a lot of strain, of course, not least from the public who want food. And the whole point of the event really was to try and put together some members of the public and the farmers to say, hey farmers, you're not isolated. There is a whole support network. You don't just have to have one client, which might be the supermarkets or the processing plants that process a lot of the commodity foods that they produce, but actually you could have hundreds, if not thousands, of customers who may want to buy locally from you if you were to grow fruit and veg. So that was very much the overall message. Now, of course, trying to get farmers away from their farm to events is not an easy task, as you can imagine, but we did have a few farmers. And what was very interesting is, for me, and very rewarding, was there was a young couple, who have just started up a micro dairy, and they are milking raw milk, selling raw milk. And they'd only been doing it a couple of weeks, and so we were able to, well, the lovely Julia was able to marry up the young lady who was doing this with her partner with John Cook from Dora's Dairy, who's a fourth generation farmer and been doing milk and raw milk for, well, pretty much all his life. So that was very good. The talks had people like Sandy Adams, who you may know. I've interviewed Sandy a few times as that woman that stood up in Glastonbury and told the council what's going on. Her remit, I suppose, is about the Agenda 30, Agenda 21, Agenda 30, who's pulling the strings, what the big overall plan is with the 17 sustainable goals, the 15-minute cities and all of that. And that was absolutely fascinating, so I recommend watching that one. We also had Eli Everyman, who was there talking about the CO2 problem and how scientists have got embedded with that and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Roger Meacock, the vet who also does human health as well, was very much looking at the PCR tests that are being used on the farms at the moment to look for things like foot and mouth, bird flu and various other things which they're not really designed for. And the more cycles that you do the testing, and he explained very, very well how this worked, but the more cycles you do, you'll find anything that you can think of that might be a problem, that isn't really a problem, the remnants of something or the potential of something that is so small it'll just pass out through the animal's ordinary natural system and wouldn't be there. But, excuse me, if you continue to do this PCR test repeatedly, it might acknowledge there's something there. It doesn't tell you how bad it is. It doesn't tell you if it's going to develop into anything serious. It really just tells you there is a tiny, tiny amount of something in there. but that is what is being used by DEFRA and the government to say, yes, there is a problem. And we saw that, did we not, when people were doing COVID tests? The same thing. A lot of people seem to have died from COVID, even though they'd had a road traffic accident, because these cycles could just prove that that was it. We had, of course, the wonderful Mark, the bowler hat farmer, Mark Byford, talking about the foodfindershub.co.uk, which he'll be coming on the show to talk about his tour and his touring around, aiming to get to more farmers so that we can have more farmers, more food, and protect our food systems. He was very much on the card about this whole thing, about what will happen if we don't have that food security. So, and of course, I'm sure many of my viewers will know, of course, Mark, the Bowler Hat Farmer. Link will be in the description to his YouTube channel. I mentioned John Cook just now, and of course, he was there representing as the farmer in his own discipline, raw milk production, and the problems with raw milk with the government and the way it's viewed and how safe they've had to make it in order to sell it. Because, I mean, it's a safe thing, but of course, as he said, if he makes a mistake in the dairy and there's something that gets a little bit contaminated, it becomes front page news. Oh, raw milk has injured people. Whereas if somebody else with just ordinary pasteurized, homogenized milk may be getting some stomach problems and things, which I'm sure goes on, or a bit of lactose intolerance and what have you, it doesn't make any news at all. But raw milk, of course, is under the microscope, which makes it incredibly difficult for them. And of course, he did mention that dairy production in this country had gone down over the last 10, 20 years. And absolutely vital now that we get new blood in, like this young couple, to start this. And of course, there are these little micro dairies springing up, which is just brilliant news. So I don't think I've left anybody out on that. And then, of course, there was some bald bloke with glasses who was really, I suppose, talking a bit about sovereignty, about taking back control for ourselves and being independent as much as we can be, understanding who we are and what we're not, but also mostly about the vision for the future. We spend a lot of time saying what we don't want, and of course we've got to be informed on what's happening and the amount of control that the government would like to do and just remove farmers from the landscape altogether. And people like the big supermarkets want to actually do the food production themselves, which doesn't involve any animals or outside landscape, grass, anything. It's all sort of factory produced. And it of course, it's a huge worry. And so then it was natural that we need to think about the things that we do want, how we want to set up the countryside, how we want farmers to produce. So it's a fantastic event. Charles Malik from the UK Column held it all together, was the MC, if you like, the master of ceremonies. Very, very good. And he gave us little sort of pointers on each one, summing up the talks, which was fantastic. And it was organised by Kay Devine down in Stroud with the group of volunteers there who have been doing all this. And there's another event that's coming up, which you might want to know about. This is about plant magic, so it's slightly different, but of course plants are part of growing, and growing is what farmers do. This is on the 12th of April. I'll leave a picture of this on the screen at the Christian Community Centre in Stroud, Saturday the 12th of April. It's from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 7:30. And it's an afternoon of plant magic wisdom with renowned plant spirit wisdom keepers Emma Fitchett and Nathaniel Hughes. And if you're interested in all of that, do check it out. And I'm not quite sure if there is a website to go to find out more information, but anyway, you can have a look at that. So it's always good to get to these events and support them. Obviously, we need more farmers to attend, to hear that they're loved and needed by the general public, and also that the public do want to help and would help. And if we could get access to the land and support the farmers, perhaps rent a field or even buy a bit if the farmer is under pressure to earn some money, I'm sure that a number of people would get together. We need to encourage the young next generation to come along and understand and learn about what farming is, the way of life that it is, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So I think there is a positive future. I think we have to go through this necessary evil. Of course, one of the things that John Cook said, we do need to stock up. We need to have food ready in the larder, as it were, rather than just rely on the supermarkets. It's lastminute.com type approach in which we always expect the shelves to be full. Of course, I mentioned how I haven't been in a supermarket for over a year now, and I go to, of course, Charlie's Farm in Bury in West Sussex for my raw milk, and just a quick advert for them because they're very good, and all their lovely meats, and of course they have also veggies and other things as well. And we need to support our farmers and the farmers markets and the farm shops and places like that as much as we can, and take away our money and our energy from the corporations, because otherwise all of this will just be one land grab and we'll end up with nowhere to shop other than what the supermarkets put in for us. And it doesn't look great, does it, if we've got to eat insects and lab produce so-called beef meats and things. That doesn't look a very good future. And I'm sure you agree that you want to eat wholesome natural food that's organically grown and just not full of petrochemicals and other nasties. And that makes perfect sense to me. Anyway, thank you for watching on this. Of course, if you see an event going on, do let me know. Send me a URL. Big thanks to everybody who supports the channel and makes it possible, because we do have to put fuel in the car and whiz off to these events and try and bring the message to the masses and win this nonsense that we're going through. Till next time, bye for now.